Okay, hi guys, and welcome to the show. You join me here in quite a dark, rainy England, the British weather we all we all think of when we think of the British Isles. This is a pre-recorded video. The chances are I'm either in London or even in New York already. Anyway, I thought I'd do an update to a video I did about a year ago, or even more so, right at the early days of the channel, about signet rings. I thought I'd explain a little bit more in depth about their history, their significance to me, and share with you the options you have if you want to start your own legacy. And you don't have to have a coat of arms. There's various styles and options you can go for. It's a really fun way to express yourself and to be remembered. So in a moment we're going to have to take a closer look, but of course I have to do my customary wristwatch check. I have put the Navi timer on this beautiful NATO strap. Now I didn't have my 22mm NATO straps with me, so I settled on this. I brought actually initially for my Squire, my blue 1521, but I thought, why not put it on the Navi timer? And it really works. I don't see Navi timers that often on a NATO strap, and I just got to say it's really comfortable, and I adore it. I think that little pop of blue, I almost put the orange and blue one on. This is from Wrist Candy Watch Club. I highly recommend them. They make the best NATO straps I've ever experienced. They're soft and comfortable, really high quality, really well made. I recommend them solely on the merit, the way they do business, the quality of the product, and that is what matters to me, and that's why I will continue to support them. I just absolutely adore their NATO straps, and really works on the Navi timer. Anyway guys, so wristwatch check done. Let's roll the intro and get on with the show. Welcome back guys. Now, signet rings. Now, why are signet rings so important? I wanted to update the video I did last year because I was generally talking about rings as a whole, men's rings as a whole, but actually I want to focus this particular video on signet rings, put a little guide together. So in a moment we're going to be discussing the history of signet rings. I'm going to give you 4 style or 4 options that suit everybody. You don't have to have a family crest, you don't have to have a monogram. There are 4 different versions of the signet ring that I really feel you should take a look at. It's something anybody can have, and it's a really cool way to express yourself. It's a fantastic refinement, a tradition that you can be remembered by. It's a great way to express yourself and something you can hand down the next generation. It's something that I do love about what a wristwatch is, especially, is that you really get an essence of that person. When you're handed down a beautiful timepiece, you're remembering a little bit of that person. And I feel signet rings are a great refinement to add to that. For me, it's the second most important men's accessory after a wristwatch, of course. So why not start your own legacy? And another cool way to be remembered by to the next generation. Now, traditionally, signet rings weren't handed down. They were actually melted down in a kind of ceremony. But these days, I inherited my grandfather's signet rings, 2 of them in fact. One in the continental European style and one in the very traditional British style. So I thought I'd discuss them. I thought I'd have another look. There are basically 4 types that I recommend, and I think in there is something for everybody. And you don't have to wear it on the pinky, you can wear it on the index finger. It's really up to you. In fact, you can wear it on any finger you want. There is no rules. I only offer a little bit of guidance with kind of tradition in mind. Because tradition usually indicates the kind of the proper way of doing it. I mean, there is no proper way of doing it, but if you want to be kind of seen and be taken a little bit more seriously, and you want to know the correct way, the proper way of doing things, I thought I'd put this video together. So we're going to look at the history. We're going to look at 4 versions of the signet ring you can have. my personal favourites, which of course is the Oxford style, and I'm also going to share with you my personal recommendations of where to have them made and where I had mine made as well. So let's switch perspectives now and get into this video. First of all, we'll start with the history. I managed to dig out some fantastic books, and I found this beautiful example, as you see here, of some very early ancient Egyptian signet rings. Now, signet rings are as old as jewellery themselves. The Egyptians would use iconography and would use icons to represent their gods, people of importance. They'd have their little hieroglyphics engraved in these beautiful stones. This particular one is silver and precious metals. So as you can see, it's older than, it predates biblical times, and in fact there are many references in the Bible to signet rings. And then I thought I'd show you another example in ancient Rome here, where the signet ring was first used as what it's still currently, the style still stands to this day, where it's used as a seal with the image reversed as a wax seal. Others were more straightforward, or with a bust of important family members. This was also to show the importance of people, the heritage of one's family, and to indicate what social class you belong to. And also you could have, for example, this one here, god of Mars here, which is obviously the god of war, so it's a kind of warrior. So that's a really cool thing that we're going to get into just a moment, picking your signet ring. And if I turn the page, there's some more examples. Here there's a very basic, very early version of a seal stone depicting a bird on the branch. I'm not sure if you can see that, but really beautiful to see in this old children's book that I managed to dig out on ancient Rome. The modern version of the signet ring, as we see here, which I've got 4 examples to go through in just a moment, where this modern equivalent really came into form was during, sorry if I get it to focus, was during the medieval era. This particular one is my family crest, which is a lion holding a cross. If this thing will ever zoom, I do apologise. A lion holding a cross, because my family were crusaders, well, they cut their teeth during the crusades, and crests were always pictorial representations of characteristics of people, their achievements. And I've got another fantastic book we'll just have a look at in just a moment. And as you see, it's inverse, it's mirrored, because this was used as a wax seal. This is a carnelian stone, and pretty unique actually. It's unique to my family, I believe. This modern contemporary, well, I say contemporary, this is actually from the 19th century, but this particular version came to form during the medieval era. And that's really where signet rings became hugely more widespread in Europe. We have this fantastic book. This is again a book that I dug out called Simple Heraldry. And the ISBN number is here if you're interested. This is a really outstanding book with beautiful illustrations, just showing you really the different uses of coats of arms and crests. And I have loads of different, everything from cufflinks to hairbrushes, exactly like here. In fact, I even have plates, spoons with the family crest on it that have been handed down, so that you can see the different uses of them. Towards the back, coats of arms really became more predominant and popular during the medieval era, as you can see, for obvious reasons. People would have it on their shield. And this book really does a good job explaining how the coats of arms works. In fact, this page is fantastic. It just explains what these, if you look at any coat of arms, they have all these hidden symbols inside. This book does a really good job of explaining the lines of partition, what are all the meanings, where these things came from. Also a guide of how you can find your own coat of arms, and information on who to contact. So a really cool way of getting to understand coats of arms, and beautifully illustrated book. Of course, it explains the coats of arms of the royal family, nobility, and all the rest of it. So what is a coat of arms? Well, It's really a kind of symbol that's handed down, was used predominantly as a seal. If I show you here, this is my family's coat of arms here, and this is the full coat of arms, and you'll see the lion on the top. So the difference between a crest and a coat of arms is that's the full coat of arms with the shield, that's quartered. So every time you'd marry, or their coat of arms or their crest would get incorporated into the design. But what was always the same was the crest, the bit at the top, and as you see again, there's the lion holding the cross, which, as you guys know, is also the symbol of the show, because I got into horology through my grandfather, because I inherited his pocket watch, and it really got me interested in watches and all the rest of it, and his kind of hobbies and passions, and so that's really shaped me as a person. So for me, that's why I naturally chose the symbol of the lion holding the cross. It's also a symbol of strength and honor and all the rest of it. So, you know, you've already seen this image. But as you can see, these were used actually for sealing letters with a wax seal or clay, even back in ancient antiquity. So these were used so you wouldn't have to dirty up your ring, because, I mean, these rings are quite expensive to have made. I will include links where to get them in just a moment. We'll go through all the different rings in just a second. There is a book here in the United Kingdom, I think in Ireland and Scotland they have it too, Burke's Landed Gentry. And if I just skip to my family's page here, you'll see the coat of arms with the Wolford lion on the top. And this just, you'll see my whole family in here. This is an old edition, so I wasn't born yet when this particular edition came out, but you know, they update them. As you can see, it's quartered with other families, and it's incorporated into the coat of arms, and so on and so forth. Nobody chooses what family they're born into, so if you don't have a family crest or a coat of arms, that's not a problem, because you can still enjoy and start the tradition of having a signet ring. Now, usually it was associated with the higher classes, but with growth of the bourgeoisie and the middle classes in the beginning of the last century, you know, people would kind of adopt these characteristics. Now, one thing you can do is what I did here. Now you'll notice that the shapes, and I always go for yellow gold because it's probably the oldest form of recognizable precious metal. You can of course go for silver or anything like that, but I'm very much a traditionalist. It was always a tradition, especially my family. Actually, our family, we had it in carnelian, but generally in the UK for a signet ring, the tradition is yellow gold. This is the most classic and conservative shape, which is an Oxford ring, and this is done by Goldcrest Signet Rings, and I'll leave an address down below, and you'll actually see my testimonial for the design of this ring. I had this ring designed, I designed it myself with my initials TGV, as you see. This is actually the second version of this ring. I had one much smaller that I had as a child. It was an old Victorian piece I bought second hand and then had the engraving added. That's another way of you can do it. So if you don't have a coat of arms, you can have a monogram, which is, you know, your initials, or some people choose images that represent them, like, you know, if you're in the military, you want a Praetorian helmet perhaps, or a Spartan helmet, or you know, a firearm or something that represents you in a symbolic fashion. That's another way to go, and you can have fun playing around with your initials. If you don't want initials, you could just have, you know, there are soldiers' rings, there are all kinds of designs. But anyway, the monogram is a really nice, classic, tasteful way to go, because you can incorporate your initials in a specific way. I liked it with the V at the bottom, like an arrowhead. That was the kind of point of my design. Personally, I like the Oxford best. I think it's the most tasteful way to go. It's very classic, and also you want to consider what finger you put it on. This is for the pinky. In the UK, the pinky, actually it's traditionally worn on the left hand without a wedding ring. However, my wedding ring is very important to me because it was from the jewelers where I proposed to my wife in Florence in front of the Duomo, so it's very, very important to me. So I wear it actually on the incorrect side. But I say incorrect, there's no right or wrong. I just like to wear it on my right side. And the pinky is traditionally the more correct finger. However, in America, they tend to wear it more on the index finger, and that's cool too. In fact, I had this recently resized from the index finger to the pinky. I'm kind of changing all my rings to the pinky now because I want to withhold the family tradition. Now, you guys know I wear this a hell of a lot. This is my go-to signet ring. Signet rings are a really lovely way to remember that family member, and I'm very privileged. I don't have many things of my grandfather's. I mean, I wish I had his roles and his certainly his academic mind, but unfortunately I'm very far from that. But I did inherit two things that are important to me, very important to me. His signet ring, which is this carnelian stone with his crest, and this is in the more traditional British style. I also have one he had made in the continental style, and what I mean by continental style, they would have the whole coat of arms on the continent, and actually this one is not in verse, just something that they do on the continent, or it's very contemporary. I'm not exactly sure, but you'll see the line has been shifted into the shield here, so it's a quite a strange European style one. Now these are both in 18 karat gold, which has a really nice luster to it, really kind of rich yellowy color. If you compare to a 9 karat gold, 9 karat has less gold in it, but is stronger and more scratch resistant. And as you can see, I'm not sure if you can see that, but there is a color difference. This is a little bit more paler, whereas the 18 carats are a little bit more kind of reddish, or a deeper, richer gold. The European style, the continental style with the full coat of arms, but in the United Kingdom we tend to go just with the family crest. His finger is bigger than mine, and I'm not going to have it resized because I'm frightened of the setting loosening the main stone. Let's talk about the stones and their significance. So if you don't want to have an image or an icon, you can just simply choose a stone. Now this is a black sapphire, and this I bought used. I had it polished up. It's a beautiful, beautiful stone. And again, the significance of the stone really dates back to ancient times, age of antiquity and beyond. These have metaphysical powers associated with them. I chose the black sapphire purely aesthetically. I just love this rich kind of, I'm not sure if you see that, but the way that the light just falls into it, and it's got this kind of depth to it. It's just very mysterious and captivating to look at, really. For example, cornelian here is for power and healing, gives energy, protects from bad vibrations, even a sense of humor I've read, and calms the temper. So that's its metaphysical properties. The black sapphire, however, is more about giving wisdom, strength, confidence in one's intuition. It's also a protection stone and is good for stressful careers. So perfect, very, very fitting for me. Now, when you choose a gemstone, you know, this is obviously if you don't want a crest, you don't want an engraving, you don't want a monogram, choosing a beautiful stone is a great way to go. You want to pick the stone that speaks to you and also has significance to you. You can also pick a stone based on its zodiac sign, which is another really cool way to do. But thing is, sometimes the stone that is dictated by your zodiac sign is maybe a stone that you don't like. You might not like the color, you just might not like the look of it. I love the black sapphire because it's got this mysterious, deep, rich look to it, and I find it, I just adore it. So it's just as refined, it's just a nicer tradition to hand down, and you know, I hope that in future generations, whoever will inherit this in my family will remember me by these rings, and I certainly remember my grandfather from this ring. Now this particular ring was made at the family jewellers in London, which is Hopkins and Jones. I believe they have changed location, but they are pretty much one of the top jewelers. And if you want to go with the monogram design like this, I strongly suggest gold crest signet rings. I'll leave the details in the description. Bear in mind, you'll have to buy the ring itself, and then you will also have to pay for the engraving, so that it can be quite expensive. But as I say, this is something that's going to last you a lifetime, that you're going to hand down. Originally, funny enough, they weren't supposed to be handed down because they were also used as a signature for authenticity. They'd actually be melted down in this kind of ceremony upon one's death. But you know, in the modern times, I think it's a beautiful thing to inherit and remember a loved one by. It's definitely a refinement that I'd like to see more of in today's culture and in today's world. I mean, you have lots of options. Of course, you can get different shapes. You can get square. You can get all kinds of different designs. You can buy used ones on eBay. So you really do have lots and lots of choices. But pretty much, my personal recommendation is always go with the classic. The British Oxford style here is, you know, it's a tasteful classic design. This particular 9 karat gold one is very, very solid. After a few years wear, it will scratch up, but you have it polished clean, and it just looks fantastic. I don't wear that much jewelry, but I think a signet ring, you know, after a timepiece, a signet ring is definitely the second most important accessory for me, I find. And it's a tradition and a refinement, something to remember your heritage. I really feel is important, and I wish to share with you guys. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up there. Let's take it back to the studio. Okay, welcome back, guys. Now, all the links to my recommendations will be in the description below, so look out for that. Please let me know your thoughts or any particular places, jewelers, places that you recommend to have signet rings made, especially if you're on the continent. I'd really like to hear about that. Also in the United States, because possibly I'm thinking about getting another one made. You can never have enough of these made. I just absolutely adore them. So anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you very, very much for watching. Please remember to like this video if you enjoyed it, found it useful, and I'll definitely catch you in the next one. Okay guys, ciao.